It began like any other Saturday morning in the quiet suburb of Ridgewood Valley. The sun had just started to rise, spilling golden light over the rows of identical houses lined neatly along the cul-de-sac. For most people, it was the start of a peaceful weekend, mowing lawns, washing cars, and sipping coffee on their porches. But peace had long been a stranger to me ever since Karen moved in across the street. Karen wasn't just another nosy neighbor, she was an unstoppable force of interference, a woman who believed every rule, real or imagined, needed to be enforced by her personally. She considered herself the guardian of the HOA, self-appointed and self-righteous, constantly patrolling the neighborhood for violations. She had fined people for grass being too tall, for garden gnomes that clashed with community standards, and once, for leaving a recycling bin out overnight. But ever since she learned that I owned firearms, legally, responsibly, and securely, I had become her personal obsession. She began her campaign with whispers in the HOA meetings, painting me as a dangerous influence. Then came the letters, fake HOA citations accusing me of storing weapons on community property. I ignored them at first. I had seen worse during my years in the military, serving in hostile regions where real danger lived beyond every corner. But I underestimated just how far Karen was willing to go. It was around noon when I first sensed something was off. I was in my garage, cleaning one of my old training rifles, when I noticed a white SUV slowly pulling up to my driveway. The vehicle had no plates but bore a magnetic logo on the door that read, HOA Security Enforcement. I had never seen such a unit in Ridgewood Valley. 3 men stepped out. They wore mismatched black tactical vests, cheap sunglasses, and carried folders marked inspection order. Their uniforms were off, wrong patches, unpolished boots, and plastic name tags that looked freshly printed. Something about the way they carried themselves was awkward, untrained. Behind them I saw her, Karen, standing on the sidewalk, hands on her hips, her eyes glinting with self-satisfaction. She had orchestrated something again, but this time, it looked different. Serious. The so-called HOA cops approached my front door as if they were storming a suspect's house. They barked orders, flashed their fake IDs, and demanded entry, claiming they were authorized to confiscate unauthorized firearms per community policy. The absurdity of it might have been funny to anyone else, but I could see how dangerous it could become if I didn't handle it carefully. Neighbors began peeking out from behind curtains, phones raised to record. Karen's grin widened as she waved dramatically, shouting about public safety. Inside, my instincts sharpened. Years of Commando training kicked in, calm observation, silent assessment, controlled breathing. I didn't react out of anger, I studied their movements, their coordination, the way their hands fidgeted nervously near their belts. They weren't professionals. They were playing dress-up. But even untrained men with a mission can be dangerous if cornered. One of them stepped forward, pressing against my doorframe, pretending to inspect a clipboard. His demeanor was forced, like a man trying too hard to look official. I could tell they had no clue what kind of person they were dealing with. They thought I was just another suburban homeowner. In reality, I had spent over a decade serving as a commando, trained to remain composed under fire, to read a situation before it unfolded, and to act only when the moment was right. I wasn't armed now, but I didn't need to be. Awareness was my first weapon. Karen's voice echoed across the street, announcing that justice was being done and that community safety came before individual rights. She was filming, of course, her phone raised proudly, ready to upload another video to the neighborhood Facebook group. The men tried to pressure me, threatening to report me to the local police if I didn't comply. I didn't flinch. I simply stood my ground, letting the silence stretch long enough to make them uncomfortable. Their confidence began to falter. One of them shifted uneasily, whispering to the other. That was when I noticed something, a poorly concealed handgun on one of their belts. It was holstered loosely, not police-issued, not even safely strapped. These men weren't authorized officers. They were imposters. And Karen had either been deceived, or more likely, she had hired them herself. My decision was immediate but measured. I didn't confront them outright. Instead, I slowly pulled out my phone, pretending to check a message, but in reality, I was recording everything. Their faces, their uniforms, their unmarked vehicle, all captured. Then, without raising my voice or showing aggression, I stepped aside, letting them enter the garage. It was bait, psychological and tactical. If they touched anything, if they tried to remove even a single item, it would be on record. Every movement would serve as evidence. The men hesitated, clearly unsure. Karen's expression shifted slightly. Perhaps she realized her plan wasn't going as smoothly as she had imagined. And then, as if on cue, the sound of distant sirens began to echo across the neighborhood, real sirens this time. Deep, authoritative, Unmistakable. The kind that didn't come from a toy speaker or a fake dashlight. Karen froze. The imposters looked at one another, panic flickering across their faces. The neighbors murmured from their porches, phones still filming. My pulse remained steady. I had already called the real police department a few minutes earlier, providing them with the vehicle description and the supposed inspection order. Now they were arriving to verify the truth. The SUV's fake decals gleamed under the sunlight as the real patrol cars turned the corner. The imposters started to back away, muttering excuses. Karen began waving frantically, trying to distance herself from the situation. But it was too late. The moment of reckoning had arrived. As the real officers stepped out, I knew the tide had turned. Karen's smugness drained away, replaced by visible fear. Her plan, to humiliate me, to brand me as a danger, had imploded spectacularly. She had sent imposters into a veteran commando's home. And now, the law was here to unravel every detail of her scheme. The quiet neighborhood of Ridgewood Valley had never seen anything like it before, and this was only the beginning.